We're going to go ahead and reconvene. The first item on our agenda is there anyone here that would like to make public comment about any of the items that we have discussed or are about to discuss with respect to the budget? I don't see anyone from the public here that might want to make a comment, but just wanted to check. If not, we have these yet to do, I'm fully aware, but we're going to go back to Stormwater Phase 2 with Mr. Surveyor. I see Zach back there. If you want to come back up to the microphone, and we'll reconvene where we had left off and get through the balance of the remaining other budgets or funds that we need to review, and then we'll review those other budgets that we have to approve as well. Good morning, Zach.
Good morning, everyone.
We're on page 92 for those who have a budget book. Questions? Comments? Do you want to review anything related to Phase 2, Zach?
Well, yesterday when we adjourned for the day, I think, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you had asked me to trim everything down to the 650,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So along that line of thought, late last night and early this morning, I went through this, and basically I'm prepared to kind of go through these line by line and tell you what I would, I guess, request, starting at the office supplies. So about halfway down, that is line item 489704 10 21 10. So yeah, there we go. Yep, 15, there you go. So I would take it to 5. Then the next line item is 2,500. 2,000. Next would be 3,000. Yep, next is 65, take that down to 5,000. Then the next one would be 10,000. Next one also is 10,000. Next one would be 20,000. Next line item would go down to 5,000. Then the next one would go to basically 187,000. And the next line item would be 5,000. Next one would stay at 2,500. The next one would go to 5,000. And that should take the total to 650, I hope.
Well, been having this problem.
650, 89.
655.
Yep.
Yeah. 655. Hang on just a minute, let me look. That's,
Yes,
so,
five.
yeah, that should be 5,000,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did the undos too many times. Yep, 658.49.
Okay.
So I'm a little confused. So the balance is 394 in the account. You're getting roughly 100K, but we're going to allocate over 600. That's more than we have.
We're actually moving all of these rows to the EDIT fund.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
Okay.
they had allotted 650,000, and
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
so the rest of the cash balance that he has now, plus an appropriation for this year,
Right.
will get him through this year. And then we won't close this fund, but we may have to move some money around to
Yeah.
bring it to nothing until possibly if he ever implements a fee.
Okay, I missed that part. And then I had another question about the F-Lake detention, when we,
There's
Up the
above
page.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one are we on?
F Lake.
4890.
Oh, F
Yeah,
Lake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question about F Lake.
so again, I see you've got an allocation for 235 there with 3,000. Is there a project you're planning on the F-Lake for this year?
No,
Okay,
not currently, no. That's intended for maintenance on the facility. Spraying, debrushing, beaver removal, whatever is necessary to continue to make the facility function. Outlet repair, whatever may arise.
so do we need to be allocating 235 at this point, or can we allocate less, or?
I suppose you can do whatever, I guess, but you have to understand this fund is intended to maintain those facilities, and it's very hard for me to know what it's going to need on an annual basis. So,
Okay.
I mean, I guess, it could be that we spend no money, or it could be that 235,000 is not even close to enough. So it's a stab in the dark.
Yeah, okay.
It-
So I guess we as a council have a decision if we're okay with that, or do we want him to come back and ask us if he needs extra, right? I don't know that I have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I don't know if anybody else does.
Yeah. Any other?
I say take it down some and then have to come back and ask, since there's no definitive plan. Maybe make it 150.
Is that going to be a huge problem, Zach? That's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I usually try to allow for funds in there, so I have it if I need it, so I don't have to come and bother you guys. But,
But like you spent 3,300 in 2021.
right. And that's what I was saying. I mean, there
Yeah.
could be 2 years in a row where we don't spend very little, and then there could be a year where we spend more than what's in the fund. I mean, you just never know. If we have a big storm and the outlet blows out, it could cost $2 million to fix the outlet. That's what I'm trying to explain. There could be 1 year where all we do is brush hog it and spray it, and we spend, 10 grand, or less.
If we want to be consistent, I think we should probably lower it.
Make it
50.
That way, if you need something, then that way we
Well, are you taking it to 150?
Council okay with that?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. Anything else related to Phase 2, since we're still on that? That's okay.
Have they implemented the ERUs?
No.
No. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that's why we're having to juggle monies to make this work.
Yeah, the Phase 2 account was never intended to be self-sustaining the way it's currently set up. It was intended to seed it with EDIT money, and then sometime in the future, set up stormwater utility, and then the utility, stormwater fees would pay for the Phase 2 account. That has not been done to date.
Okay. Any other questions from council for Zach? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're now going to flip back over to, do we need to do anything with park non-reverting capital?
Probably not.
Probably not. That's where we left off
What page
before
was
we
that?
started blasting forward.
What page was that one?
That was on page 75. Yeah.
No, there was no request for
Yeah,
budget there.
right, okay. Then, next one up is plat book.
I don't believe I changed much here.
We're on plat book, if you've not heard me.
We pay a portion of a regular part-time employee, and then we transfer $20,000 to the general fund for support of our GIS position that's paid from the general fund.
Any suggestions, questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to the, do you have any other outside general fund?
Ineligible homestead.
Ineligible
I think it-
homestead. I guess it's probably not that big of a deal since you're here the whole time.
Yeah, I'll be here when you get to it.
Okay, when we get down there, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Recorder perpetuation. John and Barry, did you guys make any notes or talk anything through in relation to that? Pretty much, that's the whole office fund.
The whole
or
office.
budget.
Mhm. And the other professional services is your fiddler contract?
Okay. We don't have anything there.
You already addressed the
We
pension.
already talked about the pension. Public defender supplemental.
I don't have any.
Nothing.
Any notes, no.
Pretty much,
Other than it's strict and you can only spend it
Yeah.
on certain things, so,
pretty limited on what it can be spent for,
yeah.
and there's not tremendous amount of changes either. Okay. We've already done corner perpetuation. CASA, GAL.
You'll notice on this one that the revenue amount is lower than previous years, and so the budget reflects that as well. If you look at kind of the differences there. Outside of that, there's nothing really else.
Okay. Any reasons for the revenue being lower particularly, or?
I think just the amount they get from the state, and it's just less, I believe, if I remember the conversation correctly.
There's a capacity matching grant that comes from the state. Last year, it was about $90,000, and this year, we're only expecting $67,000. So that's been reduced.
Okay.
That reached their work, they were having workers, volunteers and stuff.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Say that again, John.
Did I see in the paper where CASA, they were having trouble finding volunteers and people like that?
Yeah, we had the news run a story for us. Right now, we're at 77 volunteers, but of those, only 60 are assigned to cases. The rest are on leave right now, so we're short on volunteers. One of the things that we're anticipating is we have a fall class. We're expecting between 8 and 12 new volunteers from that class. Once we reach capacity again between the 77 returning, the full 77, and those 12, we'll need to hire on another volunteer coordinator. So that'll fill that position as well.
Okay. Is there any other, any other CASA funds, are there?
Don't think so.
Yeah, no. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on.
Ineligible homestead. This is if we happen to find homesteads that weren't eligible, and we back charge for that. We might bring in 1 or 2 a year at this point. We have about 4 years of sustainability of what we have been paying for out of this, which is part of a salary, some part-time if needed, and then any kind of contracts that we might enter into for services beyond what we can do with Plat Book or the general fund. And we basically have moved all of our operating expenses into here. So I am estimating, like I said, if we continue funding these things, depending on how many of the homesteads come up, you know, we would only have about 4.5 years of sustainability of this fund, so.
What is the current balance?
267, something like that.
Okay.
$261.
261, okay. Any suggestions, questions from council? All right, yeah, we'll keep moving. Already talked about, have we talked about the elected officials training?
Mm-mm. No, and this is one where the cash balance continues to grow because it has very limited uses.
Mhm.
So Tom, if you're looking for legislative ideas, here's one. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of seems.
Auditor, treasurer, recorder, surveyor, and clerk. And I believe it was expanded recently to include some chief deputy, is that true? Chief deputy expenses for travel and training as well, but it's still pretty minimal. These, auditor, treasurer, recorder, surveyor, and clerk.
Mm-hmm. Right. Why it includes these, but not some of the others that have required training.
So not much change there, and because not much qualifies, we usually have
Minimal.
over budget
Right.
from what we need, but
Okay. We've already talked about 911 and reassessment. We haven't talked about probation, have we?
nope.
see Dave, behind Dave. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Anything that we need to be aware of with respect to adult probation?
No, other than businesses slowly picking up our post-pandemic, we're seeing an increase in both our caseloads and also an increase in our obligations as far as pre-sentence writing goes.
Okay. No changes recommended there. Alternate dispute resolution,
No changes.
no changes. Thank you, Dave. Pre-trial, anything there?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. We already talked about animal control, false alarm, continuing ed for the sheriff, substance abuse, court services.
Nothing new.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Good morning. Good to see
Good
everybody
morning
again.
again.
So, court services, as you may be aware, court services serves all the courts with respect to substance abuse evaluations or assessments. Those evaluators, there's 3 evaluator positions that are referred to as CSAMs, which is an acronym for basically a court services evaluator. They're certified by the Indiana Office of Court Services. I have 3 CSAM evaluator positions, 2 of which are paid out of the 2580 fund, which is the user fee fund associated with court services. One of my CSAM positions, excuse me, is currently vacant, and I'm trying to see how long we can go without filling that position. I would prefer not to take it off the books, but rather just hold on as long as we can to refill that position, in that 2 of my CSAM positions are paid out of that 2580 fund, and it's the balance right now I think is right around 85,000, somewhere right in there, and that's beginning to keep me up at night. So what I'd like to do is propose delaying filling that position. I'd like to keep it on the 2020 budget, but just try to be as fiscally responsible as possible and not fill that position right now. That's not going to be popular amongst my colleagues, my CSAM evaluators, but that's my recommendation.
Okay. So with that recommendation, Dave, what do you suspect will likely be the outcome in terms of how much that will likely trim what you're going to actually use? Because right now it's obviously budgeted at almost 213,000. Do you think it'll be 40,000, 50,000? I'm just curious. It's not.
Out of the 2580 fund?
Correct.
I'm sorry? Yes. So the way I would say that it's going to trim a third of my salary obligations. So I don't know what the math would be on that one. I'm sorry. Let me check real quick.
Well, that's where the bulk of the expenses come from. So if that's the case, it's going to be 75,000 or something close to that.
So I have going into 2024, I have proposed that I have one full-time staff member who's paid out of the 2580 fund, which would include salary and benefits. My second evaluator would continue to be paid out of the lit fund, but then the benefits for that lit fund employee would be paid out of the 2580 fund. And then the third and final evaluator, which I'm recommending we not fill at this time, would also be funded out of the 2580 fund along with benefits. The starting salary is about 53.
Okay.
So I think it's worth pointing out that in the 2580 fund, that's not going to, whether or not we take that off or leave it on, it's not going to impact, for instance, the general fund. It's user fee covered. The dilemma with the user fees is that we have to provide services for these individuals that are court-ordered for evaluations. It doesn't matter whether or not they pay or not, we have to provide services. So we could have 1,000 evaluations that we're ordered to complete and only have one person pay, and then we're in a tough spot. So it's a little tough for me to predict. I know what our revenue flow looks like. Right now, we're averaging about, as far as costs go, we're averaging about $15,000 per month at our current rate, as far as on the 2580 fund. And we're earning about $14,000 per month, so we're burning about $1,000 a month. I think by the end of the year, if we break even, it'll be a good year. Last year was even rougher. The year before that was as rough, just because our referrals were way down.
Is the amount that you've got in terms of outstanding fees that are to be collected, is that amount growing? Basically, stuff that's not being able to be collected?
Yes.
Okay.
We are as assertive as we can be in that I have two of the staff members assigned their administrative support that spend a great deal of time reminding clients about their financial obligations, but if they show up with just 2 nickels in their pocket, we still have to provide services for them. And then we remind them what their obligations are, and then they may or may not pay it. We also utilize the services of Harris & Harris, a collection agency, but oftentimes we're chasing ghost money. It's just not there.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know how much support or help you might even get from any of the judges and courts that are ordering these particular things.
Well, I believe we have strong support from the primary. In fact, 75% of referrals come out of Superior Court 6, which is Judge Morrissey in the DUI cases. And he can order and remind clients that they're obligated, but at some point, whether they pay or not is a whole different matter.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Do we try to play with that one at all, or just leave it as it is?
I think we should just,
Say, add it to the watch list and.
just leave it for right now.
Possibly, depending on what you look at with the public safety lit money, maybe it's a high priority.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I
Okay.
appreciate if we can keep it on, just keep it open, because at some point, otherwise I'm coming back hat in hand asking for refunding of a position that's still on the books, so, thank you.
Okay. Oops. Okay. Moving on to jury pay. We had some discussions related to this with the courts yesterday. Do we have funds available that we could possibly
Well, I
shift
did
over?
say that yesterday, but then I saw this 50,000 already included from Superior One. Their revenue is expected to go, so they get $2 per case, and it's expected to go up to $6 per case. So I think we could assume at least 2.5 times the 15,000 that they bring in, and it has about 20,000 in cash. Yeah,
Okay.
so I think you're looking at with the budget you've got now, that will be tight, but typically, a court wouldn't spend the full amount. They spend it out of the general fund first, and then
Then come over to this.
to this one as a supplement, so. I don't know if you had any more feedback from anybody about the potential revenue. Yeah.
Just
I mean,
that everything's
Huh.
doubling.
Right. I mean, I think we'd be safe to put in, what, 40,000 here? Hopefully. We could cut back the 50.
Yeah, you could probably, yeah. You're probably gonna, if it's gonna go to 6 versus 2, it's gonna be closer to 45. Which then if you have that 20,000 balance, the 64 is
break
probably gonna be
even.
fine. It's gonna be real close, but should be okay.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. But do you want to keep that at 50, or do you want to?
Yeah.
I think you can lower it if you want. He's had 10. I mean, I get it, he's worried about the fact that the cost is doubling, but I don't know if 50 is. That's fine. I
Okay.
mean,
with
at the end
that.
of the day, if he needs the money, he's going to come back to
Right,
us.
right.
Well,
All
but
of
then
them
it's
will.
more than likely gonna be coming as a general fund
General
appropriation.
Right, right. Well, maybe we want to make sure we allocate all we have out, so maybe make that 35. Right, if we've got 19 in there and we think we're going to get 45. It's a little more balanced. I think it's hard to know.
It
Yeah.
is. Mhm.
That look all right? Okay. All righty. Moving on. Family counseling. Did you guys discuss that one at all to speak of?
Yeah, we discussed it briefly, like, very briefly. And this is one that you know, you don't know how many is gonna need to do the family counseling and such, so.
All right, 34K in the balance,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. We're okay with that? Parking facility. Anything related to that?
As discussed, some of the big projects,
Mhm.
projects that are being to be done next year, concrete steps, lighting, elevator.
I know that, yeah.
Use your microphone.
He'll make it worse if you try to push him.
She can't hear you.
How soon will that be taking place? Okay. All right, anything suggested there? If not, Fairground Restoration Donation Fund. Not really a whole lot there. Just some, what is the fund balance on that?
19,000.
19,000, okay. Got some earmarked potentially. Carry Home Donation Fund. Is Rebecca even here? No. Anything to speak of there?
No, nothing, nothing at this point, no.
Okay. Okay. We talked about the warrant fund with the sheriff, didn't we? Or not?
This is prosecutor.
Oh, this is prosecutor.
Oh, it is. I don't think I had any notes, but let me look real quick. No. It's very similar to a little less.
Okay. What is the balance?
129,000.
129? Okay. All right. Anything council make note of there? The public safety lease, that's pretty straightforward.
This is the bot payment.
Yep, the bot payment. Workers' comp.
Didn't really submit a budget on this one. I mean, I could put in revenue and expense out, but it typically isn't one we would budget. They come from the other budgets into this fund, and then we would pay
Get paid
the
out.
expenses out, yeah, so.
Okay. We've already talked about surtax and wheel tax. Construction, fairgrounds. Is that pretty well? Is that just some leftover funds available?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Using it for appropriate equipment and so forth.
So do you think it will finish out this year?
No, he's not. Because I don't see him.
How much is still in this fund? Just under 44,000. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Just under 44,000.
Yeah, there's enough budget there to finish it out this year is what I
Mhm.
was expecting to happen, so.
Yeah. Okay. And did we do 4880?
I don't remember that one.
No,
Doing that.
this is TIF money that is put in for the highway projects. But I don't think Stu talked about that one yesterday. Huh? Or Tom? Tom could talk about it? Sure.
Yeah, this is the revenue from the joint TIF with the city of Lafayette, and we've budgeted a variety of projects within that TIF district from this. And those are, those go through the redevelopment commission. Concord Road is one of those projects. We're also going to be doing some infrastructure at the steel site. We're doing design on a new bridge on North 9th Street. Obviously that's the expansion of North I'm sorry, this is South 9th Street. That's a city project for expansion of the road, but we're responsible for the bridge over the Elliott there, so we'll be building a new bridge as part of that project.
Okay. Any questions from council on that one? All right. We've done all of the drainage-related ones through stormwater. Innkeepers.
This is the county's portion, is when legislation was changed 2 years ago. So this is the portion that comes back to the county. As you know, the chamber was given a portion up to match their budget in the last 2 years. Couple things, you'll notice is expenses, legal expenses, and then expenses for, back to the county for us taking care of the work, and then the audits that are being done on the different facilities to make sure that they're paying their portion of their innkeeper's fund. Can be used for, we can appropriate it for use for economic development.
Cannot.
Can be used for economic development.
That's what's funding the community marketing plan for the communities of Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County.
What portion do we get?
Well, it's the community, the money is the communities as a whole. The council is the board that allocates where that money goes to.
Can't hear him. Whatever. We get $1 million a year or what? What do we get? I can't hear you.
So it's a county money as a whole, and the county decides how it's distributed. So portion of the money is being used for the marketing purposes for the community.
Oh, to the Visitors Bureau? It goes back to,
Economic development.
Yeah.
how much is that dollar? That's what I'm curious.
What is the revenue's up there.
$730,000.
Tom, do you call, when we did that initial agreement, in my mind, it was only a 2-year deal initially?
Yeah.
And that's got to be coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it,
It was July, 2 years ago.
So it's already passed?
it has.
I feel like it's been 2
Maybe
years at
In
least.
July of '21 is when the resolution was signed.
So maybe it renews automatically?
I don't think so.
No.
No? Okay.
This is the last year of that
So-
agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
So it goes through the end of the calendar year?
Well, whenever the maximum not to exceed
Oh, that's right,
amount
'cause, yeah.
is
Mhm. Yeah.
fulfilled, which we're getting closer.
Then,
Okay.
I think there may be one more thing
Mhm.
mentioned, partial payment.
Partial payment.
I think it would be wise to kind of hear an update of how that money was spent, how successful it was or maybe wasn't, just given the market.
So have TLC come in and do a presentation to council?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay, cool.
Just to be kind of transparent with where the money's going and how it's spent and some accountability there.
Results.
Yeah, results, yeah.
Okay. Local income, rainy day.
You had budgeted $1 million here, which I believe went into the general fund. Is that
Mhm.
correct? Yes, for this current year. We did not budget anything, assuming we wouldn't need to use rainy day money to handle this budget.
Right. What is
I
our,
advertised, but I didn't
right,
budget anything.
what is the current,
So this
Balance.
particular fund is the lit rainy day, and
Right.
it is wiped out. your other rainy day, which is the one you started with a long time ago, has 3.1 million.
Okay.
Oh, right. So you started with 11 million like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In there, and
No, in the regular rainy day.
in the regular rainy day.
Yes.
Yes, and
And so
gave
now we're down to 3.1.
3.1. Gave several million to roads and
Mm-hmm.
bridges and whatnot.
So we need to start building that.
I
back
would
up.
like to see some of the cash balance from this year. Maybe you say it's the interest that's above and beyond what we expected that you set aside and build that back, because your minimum that you set was, I believe, 7. And, yeah, sitting at 3.1, I think you need to shore that back up.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and then we also talked about our minimum cash balance as one of those things that we've not addressed for a long time, and that was set, like I said, a long time ago when we were running a budget that was about 20 to 25 million less than what we are now. So we are not, because we, as a percent of budget, I think we had talked about having how many months?
So an association that I follow, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends 16.7% for operating funds that you should have set aside. And so that would be 11 million for our general fund.
Yeah.
And we're currently at 7.5. Again, based on a budget of 40 million 10 years ago.
Right.
So I would like to see that one set aside as well. I mean, you're only talking about 2 months of operating expenses that you could cover should something happen. Rating agencies recommend 25%, and I think that's overall, like our overall reserves, and we're sitting at about 24% right now. If you just kind of look at funds, the major funds that we have operations from, what do we have in reserves? It's around 24%.
So this 16.7 is, they wanted rainy day to be 11 million for Tippecanoe County.
The 16.7 is what you would consider your minimum balance in the general fund.
Right.
But rainy day, you, as a body, established
Oh, okay.
7 million as your minimum. So we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
And I would like to see both of those, brought up so that you have 60 days worth of operating in your general fund and that you have your 7 million in rainy day.
So what happens after that? They don't have it. You're talking about a crisis that could possibly happen. 2 months is a short term for a crisis. So,
And that's why you would build up your rainy day fund.
Right.
To cover that.
so this comes from legislation, right, at the State House?
No.
No,
That's just recommended.
Recommendations.
And who
it's just
recommended it?
recommended.
Who recommended
The
it?
rating agencies have
Okay.
recommended 25% of your overall
Yeah, okay.
financing should be set aside.
I just have a problem with people making rules. I just wonder what that person, whoever makes those rules, what their community's like.
No, this is the rating agencies who are looking at your bonding
Right.
capacity and whether or not you're financially stable to pay back a bond.
I think we're pretty strong, but okay.
Okay.
So you're happy with $1 million for each to go towards that, to start building it back up?
I was recommending 3 for each,
Yeah,
basically.
I think.
And we would be able to have those with the excess from the 23
From
budget?
23 budget, yes.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And then anything that's left over from 23 budget basically goes back into your pool of money for, say, 24.
Right.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So obviously, we don't need to do anything with this one. but
Correct.
Those are things that we need to discuss here once we get finished with all the other budgets and funds and make sure we've got a plan we're all agreed upon. Okay. Have we talked about Francis Powers with?
Rebecca? No, we didn't. She's not here.
She's not here.
Can you remind me what this is?
This is the 70,000 CD that we set aside, so it was something established long time ago, a donation of 70,000 in principal that was to be invested in perpetuity.
Okay.
And then they get the interest earnings to spend basically on the kids.
And I know she does spend it when she can, when the situation's appropriate. I know it's not, we're not talking big ticket items, but sometimes just a change of clothes is very beneficial to a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's been there for quite a while, Powers.
Yeah, it has been.
Related to Bill.
This one, Help America Vote, I believe Julie just wanted to appropriate the remaining balance. It's been out there for quite a while. And get that fund closed.
How long ago was that established?
Oh, my gosh.
That was a long time ago, too,
Long
wasn't it?
time ago.
Another one of them, it's just kind of been hanging out there.
Yes.
4D incentive. For the prosecutor and for the clerk.
There's no big changes in that.
Nothing there? Okay. Is this remaining, the secretary
Yes.
cares?
Remaining COVID money,
Okay,
same thing, just want to
trying to
close out the
close that out.
fund.
Okay. DOC Adult Community Corrections Grant.
I had some changes here. Jason Kelly, to make sure I don't misspeak here. So under, I think there are just some things accidentally left off. Under supplies, 2990, I have 7,200. And then 3190, professional services other, 271,600. Is that the wrong number?
So we received our grant award, our actual grant award number, so really everything changes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think, do you just want to?
Do you want to come up to the mic and kind of give us the rundown? Yeah, because those are the numbers I had, and it was like, oh, okay, then obviously we're wrong.
Yes, so our grant, we requested a lot more than what they awarded us, so they gave us the same amount as last year. On the...
Is that the 1.658913?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. I didn't like that.
That was not good.
Okay. And then, so actually in the salary lines, we've had to move some people around. So I have a total of $1,028,574.93.
In full-time
Yes.
or total of those categories?
No, in full-time line.
Okay. Minus 99228. Tell me what that is then,
$1,028,574.93. Social Security, yep, close enough. Do you, because you have that in formula, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we have the operating supplies, which is 7,200. Then other professional services is $19,664.42. And then on the insurance line, I have $383,488.92. And then everything else you have in formulas, right?
No.
Let's see, so LTD, I have 3857.15. And life insurance, 2184. And workman's comp, $20,057.21.
Now, there weren't any poll positions in this particular fund, were there?
Thank you. Any what type?
Poll positions?
Yes. And that includes the changes.
So that includes
To the
the
8%.
8%?
Mhm.
Okay. So I had an addition of 26,616, and that's,
26.
yours covers that. That's why you were increasing it?
Yes.
Okay.
So then we had to move people, so we increased, and then we had to move people to offset that balance.
When you say move people, from where or to where?
From 9218 to 1122.
So do we have new numbers there?
I think we had those. If we want to run back to it, we can compare.
That's a user fee.
Pardon?
That was a user fee fund, I believe.
Yeah, so those need adjusted too.
Yes, 65,
Because I
Page
increased.
65, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I increased that one almost 24,000 to account for the poll positions.
Okay. And then we had to move, I have less than you do. 1,449,913.32 is what I have.
Sounds like we need to make sure we got the employee
Yep.
count correct.
Yeah.
In both funds.
Yep.
Yep. And I've
Sounds
emailed
like we're probably off.
Ben and Kevin the list of employees that go along with this. I can send it to Jennifer. That'd be helpful.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because this is the one we were concerned about too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would help if
Yeah.
that comes down.
right.
Yeah. I've got some thoughts when we get there.
Okay. All right,
I think I
back
have
to, oh, sorry.
9252, is that in the, no.
No,
Okay.
it is not in the book.
That's a grant of the prosecutor that I need to add salary to when we get there. Fund 9252. I'll make a note.
Pat's like, I don't know.
Okay.
Is that what kind of a grant is that?
Oh, it might be their Adult Protective Services, I'm not sure. I don't have it up here, Pat, it's not, is that APS? It's APS, yep. So when you get there, when you do that
Adult
grant.
Protective Services.
Does it have some whole position?
It's really not a grant. They call it a grant because state law doesn't allow you to give you a contract, but it funds all APS, Adult Protective Services. It funds 100% of the entire unit. So there's no local county money that goes toward it. It's probably one of the few times the state does fund a mandate.
Okay.
So Doug's laughing.
Okay, thank you. So does that end all of our other funds?
I believe so. Lit public safety is
Yeah.
the last one.
Page 74.
71.
71?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing on this one is that we have the revenue estimate for lit, and it's a little bit higher than what I thought, so 4473941. Okay, so almost 4.5 million coming in with the lit money. And then the notes that I had were that if you want to just do salaries and benefits out of this fund, then we could get rid of appropriations for these other services and charges. And we've already addressed the 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that we addressed this 113.5, although some of that was in the EDIT fund as well, 62 for the monitoring.
Is that for community corrections?
Yes, this
Okay.
is community corrections section. So the rest of that, I'm not sure what. $51,000. And then under prosecutor, we had transcriptionist, other professional, and travel and training.
If I'm out of order, we can come back to it, but for the community corrections, would it be possible to alleviate some of that user fund, 1122, move a couple of the employees into lit public safety, which would alleviate some of the concerns that we have over longevity of that fund? Maybe not $300,000 worth, but
Right.
a couple employees with their associated benefits. Was one of the thoughts I had of shifting more up to pay out of that.
Right. So give or take this 78,000 and this 113,000, you're sitting at a budget of 3.5 million and bringing in
4.5.
4.5. If we want to look closer at that cash flow here. So you're expected to have a cash balance at the end of this year of 4.8. Now, you did build up some over the course of implementing this income tax. And then this is where you're sitting for your net for 24. And so you would expect this, but you need to add back in the jail roof. So that's one thing, and then the recommendation to set aside, $1 million a year.
$1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And are on the salaries, are all the changes made for those?
No, I need to do that as well.
Okay.
I need to add those in. Let me do that now while
We're
Jason's-
talking about it, because otherwise I think our number won't be as accurate as we want.
Right.
I added it for sheriff. I don't know that Did I add all of them? Okay. Just double check, 5756, and prosecutor, 8,000. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So those are in there.
So those are correct then?
Yep.
Okay. So if we have another place to put those, what, 4 different items? The 113.5, the 60,000, 16, and the 2,500.
Yeah. Jason, did you find out what that, yeah.
So the other items that we'd requested in that line were stab-resistant vests for our corrections officers, cages for our surveillance vehicles, and firearm optics. We're all part of that. And then obviously the 62.5, right?
Yeah,
And then the 62.5 for electronic monitoring.
So you could move 51 back to the user fee fund and add a couple of positions back here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pay increases and the ongoing things wouldn't come out of the user fee, which would help kind of stabilize that a little bit.
Right.
That'd still leave us enough money to do the jail roof and the bricks and mortar recommendation.
Should, yeah.
Mhm.
I would hope that would leave us a nice enough gap to work with.
Okay. And then similarly with these other services, could move those to general fund, move a person over.
How much would that be equivalent to as far as a
78.5.
But
It'd be one position
one
in
position?
benefits.
Yeah. That's what I was figuring, probably about one
And I
position
can work with both of them to determine which positions would be best
to move
to move
over.
over.
Okay.
Pat, you okay with that? Out of the lit public safety fund, remove these other services and charges line items, put them back to the general fund, and then move a person and their benefits from general fund to lit, since the recommendation has been to pay salaries and benefits
Right,
from
but
lit.
I don't have any line item in a general fund for professional services or any of those 3.
Or we could do one of your other funds.
My other funds are almost, the cash flow is almost net zero.
But if we took a person out and moved it to lit?
But my
Swapping
person
it
comes
out.
out of general fund.
Okay.
So you're,
I don't
I
think it matters, though, if we add these lines to general fund. Do we care? Does anyone?
I'm fine with those as long as I have the funding.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So that 62 is already listed in cum cap, then
Is it?
okay.
Okay, so we're taking that one
So
out
we'll
altogether?
just take that out then?
We did.
Okay. Then, if that's the
So
case, then
did that get
we
funded
could
under a
probably
cum
only-
cap then, or no? Okay.
Which one? Which one are you talking about?
Is the red is good? So it looks like out of cum cap, the vests and the firearm optics were funded through cum cap.
Right. Okay, we're going to get the cages, and our washers and dryers didn't get funded.
Right.
So 49.5.
So then, dollar amount that we would actually be needing to, it may be only 1 or 2 positions rather than 2 or 3, if they've already got an appropriation.
2, 3 would help with their cash flow.
Again, I would caution on that cash flow to Dave's point earlier about us collecting fees, and we do everything we can to obviously do that, but that continues to be a concern for us as we move forward and making sure that we're sustainable as we go. It wasn't that long ago, again, to remind you that things were not so rosy, and we've spent a lot of time and effort to build up that fund, and we want to make sure that in the event something goes south, that we have that to maintain our operations.
Right, so we're talking about taking 3 from your user fee and paying for them from lit, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're doing the same here with Pat's.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a question. On the 4.55 million projected, does that include interest on the 4.5 million, or does the interest go somewhere else?
Yeah, it does not include, this fund doesn't retain its own interest.
Where does the interest go then?
Anything that's left over that doesn't go to its own fund goes to the general fund.
So why isn't the interest from the public safety income tax, why doesn't it go into that fund since it was a tax?
Don't know that answer. I can look into it. a little bit
Well, just
more,
off the top of my head, at 5%, you're looking at what? 5% of 4 million is at least 200,000 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And if that did go in, it would help build up the fund, to help build up the $1 million for bricks and mortars, and it would give more money back to public safety. I'm just curious. Can it be done? Can the council do that, or is it something statutory? I don't know.
It's a statutory fund, huh? Yeah, it's a statutory fund, so I'd have to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thought if we're not doing it to help keep this fund moving for public safety.
Yeah, but if that money is going back to the general fund, then all that's going to do is we're going to just end up swapping positions out of the general fund back over here. So it's a net wash in reality. I mean,
But it's a good question.
It is a good
because
question.
EDIT keeps
Yeah.
its own interest.
right. There are certain
So-
funds that do keep their
Right.
own money, or own interest, but
Well, it's got to be confusing then, to keep track of it.
Okay, so where do you want to add the roof?
do we have any sort of
You
a
don't have
capital?
a good line item in here now. I mean, I'm
Right.
just going to throw it in one, and then I'll create the appropriate line. But is it 1 million? Is that,
That's the
what
number
you
we
need
had
to set
we had
aside?
recommended.
okay.
Is that just kind of build up money to pay for a roof replacement, or is it roof replacement needed sooner than later?
Actual roof replacement.
Okay.
Have we gotten
Okay.
any estimates yet? Is that around $1 million? Okay.
I guess I thought it'd be higher. I mean, I'm thankful it's only $1 million. I say that tongue in cheek, right? But I would assume it'd be higher than that.
It's 1.3,
Yeah.
Okay.
and so the 300,000 is out of
Is it
EDIT.
eat it?
Yep.
Eat it funds?
That's what I could-
And we
perfect.
have that in there.
Yes.
1.3.
And I sent you a copy of that breakdown. It doesn't have like all the details about professional services, but it has the breakdown of the
Thank you.
How much square foot you got to cover? How much square foot on that roof?
Tracy.
How many square footage on the jail roof?
And how about steel? Don't you have to have boiler plates over them also? It's a flat roof, right? And you're going to have boiler plates? Huh?
It's a membrane down,
You could, I can add a line here, and, yeah.
5 years ago, we took it off of the budget and said, hey, we're going to try to get 5 years additional line
So there's steel involved, boiler plates, flat,
Steel frame
and,
overhead
and boiler plates, so you can't go up. Curious on how much square foot it is, because that seems cheap. Seems really cheap. I'm trying to drive at something.
He's watching, he's giving me the information.
Yeah, 1.3 is cheap. Oh, US?
Yeah.
I thought it was to build a bus, to replace like a year from now. Not what we did.
Yeah, but you got steel, it's got to go over those members, so people can't go up to the roof. Yeah, we'll always see what the bid is.
So that puts us
Okay.
at, what is the final then?
Well,
Jennifer?
if we add back, let's say 4 people, then that adds another 300,000 to this one. And dump that in here somewhere as well. I'll fix all this to make it how it should be. So that puts us at spending some cash balance in '24, but setting aside for the roof, giving you an end-of-the-year balance of 4.6, and Kathy reminded me about the $1 million set-aside, so that would give you 3.6 to still work with.
Okay. So our cash balance would be declining by roughly a quarter of what we've got currently.
Yeah, but that's with that one-time
Yes.
zero roof, so
Right.
really we're okay.
Yes.
For,
Yeah.
longevity.
Yep.
And we're building up the bricks and mortar.
Yep.
So if something else were to come up,
We have
we
those
have
funds
those
available.
funds available.
Right. So are we okay with that plan? Okay. Thank you. Does that cross all of the various funds off the list?
I think it does.
Okay, so should we take a break
Break.
now? Yeah, let's take a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll start on the other budgets, little conservancy, solid waste, et cetera, that we've got to cover.
What time we come back?
At 5 after 10. Tony, was there anything related to any of the maintenance, especially, we were just talking about the jail roof that might be beneficial for council to know and understand about that whole project that's coming up?
The jail roof quotes that we received through Tecton was 1.312 mil.
Did you hear that, John?
Yeah. Trying to get money.
What's the square footage of the roof?
100,000 square feet.
Did you have questions on the plate?
Well, John, if you're going to get it out for me, I need a lot more than that.
50.
Few more zeros.
Not missing
Do you have any other questions on the jail?
Oh,
No, I do not.
for Tony? Okay. Any other questions from other council members? Okay, thanks, Tony.
I did have a backup thought. Because I've done a lot of this bidding and stuff, I'm almost afraid to put a budget or put a amount on it, because then if the contractors see that, they go, oh, you got 2 million in there, they'll try to achieve it. What did we put in, 1.3?
In ours. it's
1.325.
The rest,
Yeah,
yeah.
so. But they'll find out anyway.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, we're going to flip over to the other budgets that we need to approve. So we're going to first look at Little Weehawken Conservancy.
This was page 97 in the book. What they proposed was 2,000 higher than last year's budget. And Lisa, I did find their actual expenses for '22 on Gateway. They spent 66,629. It's not obviously lined up apples to apples.
Mm-hmm. And their total budget, what are they asking for again?
82.7.
Okay. And I asked her about the extra 2,000, and she said they were putting in some signs along the.
Yeah, they put it in
So-
operating supplies. I think your requirement is a binding review, and so just obligated to review their budget and make any suggestions.
Any recommended changes?
Okay.
Okay, do we need to, Doug, do we need to actually move and approve this one, or does that one, since this one was on first reading,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it'll
an
be all
ordinance.
just with second reading
Yeah,
that we give final approval?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay,
And then page 99, Solid Waste Management District.
Tom, do you have solid waste for us?
I have solid waste for you. As you recall, this budget does not cover the full cost of the Tippecanoe County recycling plan, and EDIT subsidizes this to the tune of in 2024, $200,000. One thing we did not really look at, though, is what the balance was in, what is that, 4013, that fund. I think we depleted that a couple years ago, but is there a significant amount of money in that fund?
14,500.
Oh, no, probably should just let it build. Okay, so how we budget the solid waste district is we basically recognize our other costs, and then we throw the remaining portion of the revenue into the professional services line item, and that's what's then subsidized by the EDIT funds. So after the professional services line item is depleted within the solid waste district, then Kaylee starts pulling those expenses from EDIT. But if you go through the district, or through the expenses for the district, basically the food is to pay our volunteers for the e-waste collection day that we do twice a year. Educational materials are pretty self-explanatory. Professional legal, the professional services finance is the stipend that's paid to the auditor's office to be the controller for the district, and Kaylee does a fine job with that. The professional services are what we just talked about. That's for the actual removal of the hazardous waste and the recycle materials from not only the site at the trash transfer station, but at our remote sites as well. Travel and mileage for the employee for conferences, printing and legal. There's been some mailings that have been done to specific areas that are having issues with contamination within the remote bins. And then we have insurance, dues and subscriptions, and then the grants and the community support is one half of the salary. If you recall, the employee for this position is split with rec. So both the district and rec send a check to the county to reimburse for half of that position. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Commissioner Murtaugh? Kathy, did you?
No.
No? Okay. Are we all okay with the budget that's been presented?
Tom, is the employee a county employee? And then if so,
yes,
part of the 5%?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's been in there. Yeah.
Okay.
We over budgeted last year.
So rec and the solid waste each pay the general fund back, and that employee is under which account in the general fund?
I don't know where that's.
Oh, paid for out of EDIT, maybe?
Yeah.
So they pay EDIT back? Okay. And then page 100, Convention and Visitors Bureau.
This reflects an 8% raise for their employees, similar to what the county has done. 5% increase, what the county has done for their employees. As you can see, the budget's a little bit more this year than it was last year. There was a wage study done, so we see that our personnel costs are a little bit more. Grants have increased to different entities. Receipts really we're hitting record numbers, so the amount of money we have can support this budget. David, any further discussion?
Do we have?
The building insurance taxes and repairs went up quite a bit. Is there something?
Repairs on the building, they just did some new sidewalks and
Okay.
there's ongoing.
Okay.
After the Visitors Bureau?
Yes.
New building.
Not really, we just did a new roof this year.
Yeah. It's not as new as you think. Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably older than you realize.
Going back to the one, I have medicine coming out as my general fund.
General fund, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure.
Okay. I was going to say, how long coming out of it?
It's general.
Okay. Balance, good on that? Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Is that the last one?
Of those, yes.
All right. Back to our list.
Do you want me to go over the list of things we have yet to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was just my follow-up notes. So we're going to look at the Teal Road House rent. These are all tasks to take away with, I guess. Commissioners at the September 5th meeting are going to review the creation of a juvenile intake supervisor, eliminating a juvenile probation officer, finalizing the terms of the sign-on bonus and retention stipend, kind of listed who would be responsible for looking at that. The nurses, or going with a contract for community corrections. Need to look at the legalities of that and funding and make sure that they've got one or the other in their budget. Community corrections and probation user fee funds, need to look at sustainability and kind of just their overall financial structure. And I will work with them on those items. I'm going to double check salaries and all the associated funds before you adopt September 12th. That way it's part of your full salary ordinance and we have all of the different increases that we've added to salaries in there. I'm going to look up the lit public safety interest, although I think Doug kind of answered that question offline for us, that it probably isn't addressed in the statute and we could do either or, but then we end up shifting people back and forth. But I'll still look into that a little bit. And then GLC's been asked to give a presentation and maybe at the October council meeting. Does that sound appropriate since you have your adoption in September?
Yeah, that would probably be a good time.
Okay. And then just some other items, a little bit longer term. Sadie and I are going to work on the reclassification process and the flow chart for that because we just had too many reclassifications at the last minute this round, and I think we need to update that process a little bit. And then I'm going to be working on a sustainability plan for all of our funds. I know that we've done that in the past, and need to look at doing that for next year. So
We have not done that for a while.
we haven't done it for a while. And
Which kind of goes into our conversation that obviously been around the table multiple times throughout this whole process about cash balances, rainy day funds, et cetera, that those have not really been attended to very well for a little while.
I think you're in good shape overall.
Yeah, overall, I think
Yeah.
we're fine. It's just we need to at least make sure we're still there.
As I was saying to Ben, we're in a good economy, we're in a good time, this is a good time to do the,
Yeah.
add to the rainy day fund.
Correct.
Right? Because
This
it's
is
not
this is
always.
a good time to do that when we've got the capability to do it, rather than when it hits the fan and then we're going, oh, we don't have enough. Okay. Thoughts about, okay,
Well,
about any of these items, and then we probably need to roll back into our general fund.
well, could I put another one on this list that maybe, I don't know, is a council? You know, we hear, how many times during the year about, cars. And my question is, I don't even know exactly how many cars we have in the county, and when we think about the leases and the cost and insurance and gas and et cetera, and cars, catching on fire and, and the sheriff's department has done really a good job with, keeping us up to date on, okay, we're going to need so many cars and giving us our quarterly report. But, I don't understand the process on how to get a car. And when a car comes up for lease, do we evaluate, is that car still needed? What can we do with the car? So I guess my ask is if we could have a better understanding of the process of cars and how we do cars.
Or vehicles as a whole?
Correct, yeah, the county vehicles, county-owned vehicles,
Mhm.
vans, whatever we have.
Can I ask who could be assigned to help with this task?
Yeah. And Kathy's
Is
like, I'm
it-
not raising my hand.
I'm sitting on my hand.
I mean, I
I
think
mean,
that's why
yes, no.
it's where it's at.
Right, I think, a council member, maybe a commissioner, because they don't, what's the, the policy and HR and.
And I think that the problem is a lack of policy on it,
For the lack of what?
a policy on it. And I think where we need to start is, talking to our counterparts, and figure out, what is their policy, and see if we can adapt a policy in place. Because right now, it's kind of willy-nilly, And we have way too many cars out there, way too many, I will agree.
So it's all subjective based upon that particular department or in all sorts of factors that are
Yes.
far too varying rather than an overarching, this is kind of the guiding principles by which we're going to dictate that.
Yeah.
Because when we look at what is the total cost associated with all of our vehicles, from, gas to insurance, to the lease, to the cost of the cars, to maintenance, car washes, et cetera, so.
Yeah.
Kevin, should we take, some of the things off the list before we go on, so that way we address them and be done with them, like the rent on Till Road, the house there? I mean, that's a pretty simple one. My first question, is it a county employee that rents that house now, or is it just,
I don't believe so.
okay, then I propose that we raise that rent to $800 a month, because if a standard market rent for a house there would be at least $1,000 a month, and I think 800 would be at a discount. And I know it's more than what's being paid, but 800 is a very fair rate for that house.
Commissioner Byers?
Yeah, and I think you're in the right direction, Barry, because the house is there in case the head manager or any of his employees, somebody close to the fairground, that's the reason we purchased the house. Now, it's been brought up, maybe we need to just go ahead and sell the house, too. I mean, that's another question to bring up down the road or whatever. But yes, raising the rent 800, 900, I think you're definitely in the right direction.
Who pays utilities?
They do.
They do.
And they have to mow it and maintain it and things like that. I mean, any maintenance, we're not doing it. We're just collecting the rent.
And it's at 500 now? Yes. Right?
Right.
What's it, 500?
Right, and it's been real for probably 5, 6 years, 7 years. I mean, when Ben was there, Ben was a caretaker or whatever, he lived in the house, and I put him right there next to the fairgrounds and such, because he did have a place on the fairgrounds. And that's the reason we kind of looked at it. But since we've gone to Andy, or, well, through whatever, Jeff, Dennis, Andy, whoever we've gotten to, nobody really wanted it. So once again, maybe it's something we need to look at, just selling it, or, we got potentially 2 new employees coming on, if they can find them. And having somebody right there really is a time saver, because there are a lot of times, events get over 10, 10:30, whatever, and that person just walk over, lock the doors, walk back.
No, and that's why I asked if it was an employee, because
Right
obviously.
now, it's not.
Right, and so since it's not, then we try to get at least the market rent.
Right, I agree.
Do we currently have a lease with the person?
If I remember right, it's a 1-year lease, and it's month by month, is what it was.
You have to look to see if they're
Doug's
been a good tenant. Do they tear the place up?
No,
Pay the rent, because sometimes try to get somebody else in there.
Right.
I can see if you got a large volume of them, but a couple $100 a month is not going to break anybody.
I can't remember the particulars of the lease, but it wouldn't be any more than year to year, and so I just don't know when the lease term expires, the most recent one. But like Commissioner Byers said, it could even be month to month after the initial year went by. I just haven't looked at the lease in a long time.
So I'd like to just propose that we move it when the current lease is up, or if it is month to month, we give at least a 30-day to 90-day notice and move it to 800 and just go from month to month in case we do get a future employee that needs it. That would be benefit to us.
Yeah, and I can't remember how this got in front of the council exactly. I think I think the
Well,
commissioners would be.
right, commissioners are going to be the ones to set the rate, but it was because of the income side that we
Oh,
were
okay.
evaluating.
Yeah,
And we were wondering if that could be bumped, so that's why it got
yeah.
before us.
And sounds like it can be.
So if commissioners are thinking that that's likely the scenario, then we could bump that rental amount at least an appropriate amount. So as far as our part,
Yeah, there's
we
nothing
could,
in-
there's nothing we need to be handling on that part of it. It'd be more what we feel comfortable doing on the income side on our budget.
And
what-
I don't-
What would be appropriate.
No, I mean, it could be a couple of $1,000s. I don't know if it's worth adding that in if we don't know
Yeah.
how it's going to play out, you know. Hopefully by next year this time, we have a better
Mhm.
number.
Right.
So, are there any other items that were discussed that need to be added? Hope not.
No, I think that's,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We need to vote on that rent increase?
that's the commissioners.
Do what?
Okay, what else?
So where are we and what's the council's feelings on as far as, do we stay at the 96? Do we feel comfortable being at the 95? And with that being the case, do we just do cash balance in either case?
I was looking kind of at the historical percentages where we were the last several years. For the 23 budget, we were at 94%, 22, 93, 21, 96. I know the goal is always 96, from what I've understood, but I'd feel comfortable going down to 95, knowing that some of those positions will just take some time to get quality people in there, not just any person to be trained and do the job well. That's
And
my
just
opinion.
even under the current
Yep.
hiring environment, just to
Correct.
get enough people to be into those positions,
Mhm.
right? I think I would agree with that.
I would as well. I wouldn't go any lower. 95 is where.
Especially with a lot of the changes we've made, the intent is to hopefully get more of those positions to stay filled a larger percentage of the year rather than having the turnover.
Mouse is
Then, if that is the case, are we comfortable doing this then out of our available cash balance that we know we're going to have at the end of the year? And then, do we want to make a priority list of the other things that we have talked about with respect to rainy day, our minimum cash balance, those kinds of things?
Can we see all that up there? Like what, so we're saying 3 million in, what is it going to, what will be our cash balance at the end of the year? What are we projecting right now?
Currently, you have about 7 million higher than anticipated due to interest being increased, so that was to the tune of, well, let's say 3 million. Unspent budget is about 2.5 million. The lit money that I had put in
Which really,
could have gone to rainy day.
well, but the lit money, does it really shouldn't be considered here because we already accounted for it when we were doing,
No,
No.
it was extra, so you got public safety and EDIT and general fund, each got an extra special distribution.
oh, okay.
And in the past, I know it's gone directly to rainy day, and I put it into general fund, so.
So that's going to
So,
general fund?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, let's say this is interest and unspent budget. Actually, that is probably like 3.2. this. Unspent. That is probably closer to 3 as well. So you know you have at least that much, and we have half a year to go.
If we raise the minimum general fund balance up to the, what you're proposing is 16.7%,
Which
to
would take
11.
us to 11.
Taking off, hypothetically, say we do all this,
Yep.
would we still be at that 11 million cash reserves in the general fund by a comfortable amount to allow for a little bit of unknowns?
Yes. It's your operating is what we call that.
Yeah,
Your
operating balance.
Okay.
So that's the cash. That's not the rainy
So how much have we borrowed from or taken from rainy day over the last several years that we have not replaced?
You took it
we
from
replaced
the health
500.
insurance
Okay.
fund and moved it to general fund, about $1 million the past 2 or 3 years to support
Well, but that
this.
was health insurance, but we've also had a rainy day fund that was significantly higher than where we are currently.
And she looked into that, and that was where it went towards roads and culverts and bridges, those projects, and they paid directly out of that for those, and then also some money to support the initial bot payment came out of there.
So overall, how far, what was our current balance in rainy day compared to where it had been?
I think you said it was 7 and now it's 3 million?
Yeah. So we're down roughly 4 from its highest point. So the question, I guess, is for council, do we want to replenish at least a portion of that back into rainy day?
And by portion, are you thinking 3 million back into rainy day?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So move 3 million from the cash into rainy day.
You gonna take it out of the general? Take it out of 11 million?
In addition to,
Lisa's OCD. about
I
the
know,
commas.
it bothers
No, I
me
can't
too,
tell.
but,
Is that- 100,000?
Take it out of the interest.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what we're doing.
Take it out of the interest. Okay.
Part of it, yeah. And the unspent, the projected unspent rolling over. And then if we take let's just say we meet the 1.5 and cover that, we still have some,
you'll still have about a $3 to $4 million
to do.
balance,
Cash
operating
balance.
balance.
Which is
At the beginning
where
of
we've
the year.
been
Mhm.
Right.
the
Where
last
you've
couple
been.
years.
Yep.
Which is still in a pretty good spot.
Yes. So that's it then, right?
Wait, what about the 1.5 million?
Well, that's what we were talking about, is that would come out of our current cash balance, which would put us still at about 4 to 4.5 million. But I want us all to be
Thanks
comfortable
for
with
the
that.
commas, because this is $1 million.
Okay.
Yes.
I changed that.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah,
All right.
Right. So
right.
there you go.
Okay.
So there, yes, so then you
I knew
take
in
the
my head it was
700
working.
minus 1.5, so that means we're really taking roughly $750,000 to 800,000 out of our current cash balance to bridge to meet us at the 95%.
We're taking 800,000 out of our current cash balance to meet,
Correct.
Next
To
year's
meet
budget.
next year's budget.
yes, okay.
Are
now
we
I
all
follow
together
that.
now? Now that we all can follow along? Yeah, the commas did
I
help.
know, the commas help, yes.
And then Jennifer, this would also help with getting above that 25% threshold for any ratings that may be needed down the line, which is obviously a big deal.
Right.
And above the 16.7% recommendation for operating reserves. So we're strategically, we're in a good position if we do this.
And this is obviously a good time to be doing these things while the economy's cruising along at a pretty good clip, rather than not doing this and then things hit a break point and then we're,
If you put this money towards salaries, then you're adding to a compounding increase each year. So it makes sense to do one-time things with it right now and see what happens with interest rates, you know?
I think by doing this, you know, I think when we look at this whole budget for '24, we've accomplished replenishing some of our funds, but we've also taken care of our employees.
Right.
I mean, we've given the 5% raise, we've evaluated, you know, public safety, where our needs are. So I think we've really accomplished what we've set out to do in this budget.
okay, are we all?
Our rainy day is going to go to 6.
Mm-hmm. So we'll at least get us much closer to where we had been, kind of at that high water mark.
And our cash balance is, I'm looking at the statement from July, is almost 16 mil, so we'll go closer to 17.
From the general fund, the cash balance at the end of
Yeah, the cash balance, what will it go to? Yeah, can you tell me the number?
around 22,
Pardon?
around 22
It'll
million.
go to around
But it'll be your uncommitted balance that
Yes,
drops down.
we'll actually be somewhere in that 4.5-ish range, which is where we've typically been starting the beginning of the year.
Do we, or do you, Jennifer, feel that the county's self-insurance rainy day fund is still $500,000 less than what we have set for the minimum? Do we need to get that back up, do you feel, or do you feel comfortable because of the amount of money that we have in the self-insurance fund currently, plus the 2.5 million, is that sufficient?
I think it's sufficient, especially if you do this. But eventually, yes. I mean, like I said, depending on what interest does next year, maybe that's a hole we fill next year.
Well, and the other part is, since that fund has been maintaining or growing, it's not like we're in danger of that really hitting a death spiral, so to speak.
Because there's still 9.5 million.
Right.
Pretty much stable.
So as long as it stays reasonably stable, I wouldn't see that there's any real red flag that indicates we need to do something immediately with that. Okay. Do we need to talk about agenda for the evening meeting next week?
I'll just announce the time. I'll put together a recap of everything
Okay.
to present, but it's typically been a fairly quick meeting.
Fairly quick meeting. So.
When is that, Jim?
6 p.m.
6
next
p.m.
Tuesday
next
night.
Tuesday, September 5th. In this room.
And Jody will be operating that meeting because I will be on my way back from Baton Rouge visiting my grandson, so.
You gonna be here or not?
He will not.
I will not.
I may be in court that day too. September the 6th?
It's in the evening.
5th, is it 5th, September 5th?
Yeah, September
Got
5th.
travel. 5-hour travel. Whatever. I vote for it, yes.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else that we need to attend to before we are adjourned from our, probably ought to give one more opportunity. Is there anyone that might have slipped in here that I didn't notice that would like to make any public comment concerning our budget
Or anything online?
or anything online?
I can see.
Okay.
You can ask Dustin.
Dave, Mr. Byers,
I'm just going to say two things. A wonderful, great job to Jennifer and her team of putting everything together, so I think we owe them a nice round of applause for that stuff. And number two, all these wonderful goodies everybody's been snacking on. Paula paid for all that, so if you want to make a donation, we're going to have a cup sitting over there, so we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
If there is nothing else to come before us, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Third.
Thank you, everyone.